When I was 10 years old and one of my little brothers was 8, he was already bigger than I was. That summer at our local swim club, one afternoon he came up behind me and dunked me. It was all in fun, so he thought, but I was terrified. I couldn't breathe, and I was desperate to come to the surface and be able to take a breath. Today, 66 years later, I still remember the sensation of being stuck underwater. That brief trauma taught me very effectively to watch out for him and anyone else who might threaten my safety with a joke. Have you ever been close to drowning? Have you ever felt like Peter must have after impulsively getting out of the boat and walking across the water to Jesus? Did you end up being rescued by your own efforts, or was it someone else who saved you? Well, here's something to think about. You actually have drowned, and you have been rescued, saved. This happened at your baptism. Whether it happened when you were a grown-up, a young person, or a baby, in the midst of that extraordinary act, that sacramental rite, promises were made, either by you or for you, by parents or grandparents. And these promises were not the ones we may have hoped for now looking back. Maybe we would have been delighted to be promised a life free of illness or pain, an absence of heartache or fear, maybe a life free of anything that might challenge us, a struggle, and a guarantee. Would have been nice, a guarantee of a smooth ride through this life. But instead, promises were made. Promises were made that committed us to be the presence of the risen out of the water Christ, alive in the broken world where we live. Whenever there's a baptism here, we get to remember and remake these promises as the adults that we are now. We promise again to continue eating and praying, growing in faith together, being part of a church community. We promise again to persevere in resisting evil. We promise to pay attention to our relationship with God. We promise again to live out the way of Jesus, the way of love, in all that we say and do. We promise again to recognize the sacred Jesus-ness of all people and to work for justice and peace. So it turns out that rather than God taking care of us or reaching out to save us or giving us what we want and keeping us safe, we are actually called to join him in doing the reaching and the saving, since we have now, like Jesus coming out of death into life, promised to be the energy of his love in the world. My granddaughter, Mabel, is working this summer at the Lancaster Community Pool. 4 weeks ago, as she was scanning the swimmers, she noticed a boy who seemed hesitant to go down the sliding board after his brother. And when he finally did, she noticed him struggling a bit. She told me, "So I walked along beside him and after he swam about halfway across, he started to show the usual signs of drowning: a panicked look, making no forward motion, flailing arms. I honestly didn't think much before blowing my whistle and jumping in, but I was definitely nervous, she says. I shoved my rescue tube under his arms, and he thanked me as I pulled him to the other side of the pool, where we met his older sister, who also thanked me as well. I was a bit shaken afterwards, but was incredibly relieved to be able to help. It was a great feeling. Someone was in trouble, and Jesus, in disguise as a 17-year-old lifeguard, reached out to save. My friend Debbie was a paramedic for many years, experiencing many saves as well as witnessing deaths. She tells me that in all her cases, she was conscious of being Jesus for all those she treated, those accompanied through the ends of their lives, and those colleagues she worked with. She was always aware of God's Spirit powerfully working through her knowledge, her hands, her heart, and her experience, always reaching out to save. This coming week, the church celebrates the feast day of Jonathan Daniels. Has anyone ever heard of him? Jonathan Daniels? A few of you. He was a 26-year-old seminarian. He was studying at the Episcopal Divinity School in Cambridge and answered the call of Dr. King to go to the South and to help register Black voters. So he ended up in Alabama to help with voter registration among the citizens in rural Lowndes County. He was arrested for picketing a segregated store and put in jail, and when he was released, he and 3 of his friends, a Roman Catholic priest and 2 Black teenagers, went to enter a convenience store to get some sodas. You can imagine August in Alabama, like this, but more. A large white man blocked the door and told them they were not welcomed and to go away. When they didn't, he pulled a gun, and as Jonathan pushed the girls out of the way to save them, he was shot twice in the chest. He died almost immediately. One of those 2 young girls, his name is Ruby Sales. Though she was traumatized by the shooting, she found the courage to testify at the trial of the shooter, who, as you might expect, was acquitted by an all-white jury. Now, as an adult, she is a scholar and a theologian, a speaker, and organizer. She says this about Jonathan Daniels: he was not merely a tragic casualty, but as a person who understood the true meaning of Christian witness and human solidarity, choosing love and moral clarity over the violent preservation of white supremacy. Jonathan certainly was the saving hand of God for her, living out the way of love, the saving way of Jesus. In the next few minutes, we will do what we do every week. We will reach out our hands to receive once again the presence of Christ. It will enter and energize you to continue reaching out your hand for others.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Amen. Just love.
Amen.